Welcome back. Welcome back. This is lecture 5 of the Dark Knight series, and we are going to bring it to a close today. This is the end of the Dark Knight series, and hopefully we're going to be able to do it with a good resolution for Batman, which I'll give you a little bit of spoiler. It's not the greatest resolution, but it gives you a good lesson about life. You know, the best thing that we've realized throughout this whole thing is that life is not really simple and life is not really easy, and the Joker is the perfect representation of that. You know, I wanted to start off this lecture with the perfect explanation of really what the Joker is and his philosophy, and life's philosophy, right? Because Joker is a representation of the chaotic aspect of life. Here's what he says. So he takes out this. So right here you have the traditional mob boss, right? Here's the one who has principles, moral structure, all of these things, and they have some sense of values, and then you have Joker, who's just completely chaotic and just completely crazy. And you can see in the background right here, this is when he burns the money. So let me see if I could find that part of his ideology. It's right here. It says, he burns all the money that he earns because he didn't really care about the money in the first place. And he says, everything burns, right? His philosophy is everything burns. Every principle that you've ever established will burn. Every society that you've ever established will burn. And every rule that you've ever established will burn. Think about it. America is the oldest democracy, the oldest current democracy that exists, and we're only like 200 something years old. It's like, why? Why is that true? It's because we try to establish such principles, and the principles will eventually fall apart. That is the Joker's philosophy. And then the reason behind his philosophy, this is a good way of conceptualizing it. He says, I forget the whole quote here, but he says, I'll show you how loyal. So exactly what happens is he takes this mob boss here, right? And he says, I'm going to essentially feed you to your men, like, right? I'm going to have your men turn. They work for me now. He tells this to the mob boss, and he says, and they're going to execute you, essentially. And he says they're doing that because I have the power now, right? I have the power. They said they were going to be loyal to you, but they only cared about your power. They were only interested in what you had to offer them. You were just a tool for their, we'll say, satisfaction in a general sense, but a tool for them to achieve their goals. And now I'm going to be that tool. So what he says is, I'm going to show you how loyal a hungry dog really is. And the question is, what does that mean? That means the principle that they established, which in this case is loyalty, can be broken down so easily. I'll show you. He believes, right? He believes that we are hungry dogs. He believes that that's exactly what we are. And to some degree, he's right, right? To some degree, we act on impulse, and this is the thing that we learned from Harvey Dent, in the last lecture. To some degree, we are completely impulsive creatures that operate only on motivation, and that's exactly what Harvey Dent was. Harvey Dent, he was the hero. Everything was going well. This is a good recap of the last lecture. He's got this starry, bright-eyed look in his face, but then all you have to do is give him a little bit of suffering, which is reasonable, right? Like, enough suffering so that he's in a dire amount of pain, which we all experience, which is burning off his face. And what happens? He turns into the villain, right? He turns into somebody who gives up his principles. And that's it. All he did, when things were going well, he was going well. When things were going bad, he turns into, we'll say, he loses his principles. And that's the representation of a dog, right? Because that's what dogs will do. Dogs will just chase whoever feeds them. Same thing with cats. Same things with all animals, because they're instinctual creatures. And the Joker says that that's all of humans, and to some degree he's right. But the answer is, what is the answer to that? What is the answer to this problem of motivation? And that answer is going to be something that resembles willpower, consciousness, ego. I'm going to say consciousness, because that's a... Well, no, I'll stick with all three, because we've been playing with this idea of ego and willpower throughout the movie. So we have someone like Batman, who's at his low point, right? He's at the point of, well, if he were... Here's a good way of looking at it. If he were an animal right now, if he were just acting on his primal animal instincts, then he would have given in to the Joker. And it's a really ambiguous idea, because the thing is, he has gone so close to giving in so far. He has gone so close. He has tested the limits in terms of his moral principles, So there was this one scene where this is actually great cinematography, like the way that they had this established, right? You have the Joker standing here, and here's Wayne Tower in the background, and you have this main street sort of coming along, and Batman has the option. He has the potential to kill the Joker. He has the potential to do it, and he comes so close to doing it. He's the frustration that he's experiencing is just tremendous, but he remains strong. And then there's the scene where he bangs, I already showed you this, but it's the scene where he bangs the Joker's head against the glass in the interrogation room, and he's clearly sacrificing some of his principles there. Like, there is no doubt in my mind that he is, and I can't find it, but he's in the interrogation room, and here's them in the interrogation room. Here's a good depiction of what happens when he realizes that he's not, when he realizes that throwing the Joker's head against the wall does nothing, because he's just a spirit. He's just a dog. It doesn't even matter. All he wants is chaos. All he wants is the sacrificing of principles. And then finally, in the moment of crisis, he chooses to go for Rachel over Harvey Dent. And he in this idea, right? He chooses to give up the White Knight. He chooses to give up his principles to run away. And he was ready to leave, right? If the Joker didn't give him the wrong address, he was ready to leave. He was ready to sacrifice his principles. And what does that say? That says only one simple fact, and that simple fact is that he's a human, right? Batman, we could think of him as a superhero, but he's just simply a man that we could relate to. And actually, the fact that he doesn't have any superhuman powers makes it a lot easier. And we come to this realization right now that Batman, or Bruce Wayne in this case, because he's really just Bruce Wayne, he's just a human. He's just a person that has ordinary motivations, and he's got to figure out how to stick to his principles, even when every single ounce of his being is telling him not to. Every single ounce of his being is just telling him to be like a dog and follow his impulse and give up his principles. So now we get to the question. What is the solution? What do we do for this? And so yeah, we've already kind of figured it out, right? We've kind of figured out with something like endure, something like the Rocky quote, but we got to see how it actually plays out. So, it's ain't about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. So the question is, what does Batman do to keep moving forward? And his answer, and I find this answer to be something brilliant, but also quite tyrannical, right? You could see how it becomes a little bit scary and threatening, and it might be a little too far. And I think maybe this is the point. This is what Christopher Nolan here is going for. But Batman essentially becomes a god. That's what he does. When he decides that things are going low, when things are tough, he chooses, so we could say, when he doesn't have complete control over himself, right? Because this is the problem, right? He wants to do something. He wants to follow his principle, but he doesn't have complete control over his motivations, because his motivations are pulling him in a completely different direction. So what does he do? He becomes a god. He becomes all-knowing. He essentially... So I'll tell you exactly what he does, and then I'll tell you the meaning behind it. So when I say he becomes a god, he essentially becomes all-knowing about everything that's happening inside of his city, which in this case is everything happening inside of himself. He attaches cameras to every single person, or he hacks into the cameras of every single person in the city. And, well, Lucius Fox, right, he comes along and says, wait a second, this is wrong, right? There's something that's wrong about this, and you really shouldn't do this, and there's something that's right about that. But So that's what he does on the surface level, right? He essentially hacks into every single person in the city and uses that to track down the Joker. He uses it to track down the evil spirit, right? What does that mean, right? What does that mean? It's kind of easy. He decides, actually it's probably not that easy. He decides to take control of all aspects of himself, right? Because we've already established this. We've already established that Batman and Harvey Dent are interconnected in some way, you know? And just so you know, whenever you watch a movie and everything gets to a low point at once, and then everything gets to a high point at once, the reason why is because all the characters are interconnected in some way. If you're doing a screenplay right, if you're writing a movie correctly, then all of the characters are representations of the main character. They're part of the main character, and that's an idea that I explain that very deeply in Batman Begins. I also explain that deeply in Beauty and the Beast, if you're interested in that. That's like the Beauty and the Beast is like the hallmark, the perfect way of explaining this idea. But so we've established that Batman and Harvey Dent are connected. Well, then it wouldn't be much of a surprise to say that Batman and every single person in the city are somehow connected. You could say that all these people, right, all of these persons are represented of the personalities that are inside of Batman. So I made the case in the Dark Knight, in the Batman Begins lectures, that all of the people, right, Lucius Fox included, are personalities that are within Batman's psyche. Just like Harvey Dent's the ego, Lucius Fox is the resourceful, the child is the child or the idealist, and then you also have the child's father, who's Commissioner Gordon, who's also an idealist, and these are all the parts of Batman's psyche. And then you also have the Joker, who's part of Batman's psyche, as in he's the somewhat devilish aspect. So what is Batman's solution now? He says, I have all these personalities within myself. You know, we could say that these personalities are, I made a list of about like 100 of them. There are so many that exist within you. You could say it's like, you know, you also include the Garfield instinct. You also include, you know, well, the person that you are when you want to study, the person that you are when you want to be social, the person that you are when you want to be by yourself, the person that you are when you're watching TV, the person that you are, you know, all these different people. He takes all of them and doubles down and says, okay, we are all going to unite for one common goal in this point. And it's somewhat tyrannical. That's the problem. It's somewhat tyrannical. You take the different, we'll say, the different parts of your psyche. You take the different personalities that exist within your psyche, and you attach them to the ego. That's a good way of looking at it. You attach it to the principle. Even though this Lucius Fox figure, who we could say has nothing to do with Batman's principles, right? Batman's principles and Lucius Fox are, well, their desires are different, right? They have different desires. And Batman says, no, I'm going to take you and you're going to work for me. You're going to be part of my solution. And, you know, it's a somewhat tyrannical idea. It's a somewhat tyrannical idea because it's anti Lucius Fox, you could say. It's anti that personality, but he's going to double down and he's going to say, I am going to, for this moment, get every single personality that exists within me, or every single motivational drive that I have, every single need that I have, and hunker down and have them follow my principle. And well, this is an ideology that is embraced by essentially every single bad ruler that you've ever had, that you've ever seen in your entire life. You know, a good example is, we'll take Stalin, right? Stalin says, essentially, I am establishing principle, right? Actually, we'll go with Hitler, because Hitler, same thing happens with Hitler, and it's a more common example. Hitler says, I'm establishing this principle. Jews are bad, right? And now you have essentially every single person within the kingdom, you could say, has different motivations, right? You have the people who are, in this case, hungry, right? Because they were very poor in that case. This was after the Treaty of Versailles. You have the people who are very poor, and then you also have the people who are incredibly, we'll say, hateful, right? Like the people who actually wanted to take out the Jews, which probably wasn't that big. Most of them were just hungry and found that as a solution. And then you also have maybe the people who are conformists, right, who just sort of follow the crowd. And then you also have the people who want to take over the Jewish businesses, right? You have all these different motivations that exist, and all of them tie themselves to one fundamental structure. And the fundamental structure is, if we, and this is something like the final solution, right? Which is, if we get rid of the Jews, then I will solve every single one of your needs. It's not like every single person just wanted to get rid of the Jews because they wanted to get rid of the Jews. No, you have every single person has a fundamental need. All these fundamental needs are different, and we're going to use this principle, this arbitrarily established principle, to fulfill every single one of your needs. And the problem with that is, first of all, maybe it's tyrannical, right? Maybe it's tyrannical, and obviously that's what you see in the case of Hitler, right? Hitler was too tyrannical, right? He established this arbitrary principle, and the principle itself was wrong. Now that you establish this principle and you say everyone has to stick by it, well, you could say that's the ego talking, right? Hitler was the representation of a poorly formed ego, a poorly formed principle, and you could see what the result was, right? Now let's take that idea and bring it back to yourself, right? Let's take this idea and bring it back to yourself. So there's this idea in college which I find to be it's funny, but it's like morally reprehensible. And here's the thing that everybody sort of sees, I'll say the same thing with smoking too. Everyone believes that to drink, right? To be able to drink alcohol, you have to be able to suffer through the awful taste of alcohol, right? When you drink vodka, when you drink beer, whatever it tastes, especially for the first time, everybody says it's an acquired taste. And the reason why it's an acquired taste is because your body is ingesting a toxin, right? Alcohol is literally a toxin. And I mean, you could see it, right? I think it's 10% of the population is alcoholics, something like that, in America, and you could see why. You could see why. Obviously, it's highly addictive, and at the same time, it's terrible for your liver. We know all this, and but yet people are willing to withstand the awful, awful taste of alcohol to achieve a goal, an ego-established goal of I want to have a good time, right? And they're willing, in this case, to overcome every single desire within them, their body telling them, do not drink, do not drink, do not drink. This is bad for you. There's a reason why this tastes gross. We have an entire biological system that makes you not want to eat the things that taste bad. And your body establishes what tastes bad because it can recognize toxins. Now, you establish this principle of I want to get drunk, right? When you establish this principle, then you have to overcome the, we'll say, joker in this case, or the animalistic desire to stop drinking. And you do so anyways. Because, well, you establish a rule and you say you're going to go with the rule. You say you're going to tough it out. And the problem with that is you establish the wrong rule. Right, you establish the wrong rule. Here's another idea that relates to alcoholism that I want to see if I could tie in here, which has been on my mind for a little bit. Yes. Okay. So it's the idea of rationalizations. Rationalizations are the perfect understanding of why somebody of a bad principle. Rationalizations are the perfect example of a bad principle. And the big flaw with rationalizations is you don't know if you're rationalizing or not. But we could take it back to Harvey Dent here. Harvey Dent, right? We could say that the Joker is like the leader, right? He's just like absolute chaos. And the thing about Harvey Dent is Harvey Dent becomes evil, right? And the question is, why does he become evil? And he does it because he feels justified. He feels like, to be bitter, resentful, and vengeful. Those are his principles, and his principles that life isn't fair. So therefore, I could do whatever I want, and I'm just a representation of life, which is somewhat flawed. Well, obviously flawed, but it's just a bad principle, right? All he's doing is going through essentially a goal structure. He's saying, I'm establishing a goal, kill as many people as I can. I'm going to get whatever rationalization that I can for it. I'm just going to go with it. I find the same thing happens for people who ingest alcohol routinely. And, well, I've been trying to figure out why people drink alcohol, because obviously college is a time where most people drink alcohol, and one of the answers is something that's somewhat good, right? Or, yeah, we'll call it good, right? Something morally acceptable, and the answer is just to have a good time, to connect with people, all of these things. But then there's also the idea that people drink alcohol to let go, right? They drink alcohol to let go. And the question is, let go of what? But there are so many things that they could let go. One of the ideas is to let go of some thought that has been bothering you, right? And oh yes, this was the idea that I wanted to connect it to. So we have someone like Harvey Dent and Batman. Actually, we'll go Harvey Dent and Batman, right? So both of them, they realize in this deep, dark moment that they are not as good as they thought they were, right? They both realize that maybe they're just inadequate. Maybe they just can't face the beast. Maybe they just can't do it. Like, they're just not the person that's strong enough to face the beast. They're not the hero. And unfortunately, again, that's 92% of people. 92% of people set goals on New Year's resolutions and fail with those goals. And the question is, and this is something that I established before, the question is, now, what are you left with, right? So now that you failed in your goal, what are you left with? And you're left with this realization that you're inadequate, right? This is something that we've already established, and that's the representation of Two Faces' face, right? Because now that he's gone through the suffering of life, and we could say, in a simple sense, he thought he was one person, then he faced the world, and he failed. And because he failed, he realizes that maybe my view of the world is not correct, right? Maybe my view of the world is wrong. And, well, this is the realization that we must come to grow, right? The realization we must come to grow is, okay, I faced the world and I was wrong. Therefore, I need to change my model of the world and, we'll say, face that dragon, which in this case, the dragon is something like my old model of the world, or something like the world itself, and then rebuild myself up. That's a good representation of it. There's an Egyptian myth where you have something like God, and his name was Osiris. And the thing about Osiris is, Osiris faces we'll say devil, right? His name is Seth, but he faces the devil, and the devil wins. And what happens when the devil wins is that the god Osiris gets torn into pieces, and all of so all of his pieces, right, of his body get thrown in throughout the kingdom, right? So maybe like one of his eyes goes to the northwest part, and and maybe part of his shoulder goes into the northeast part, and all of them are completely dispersed. And you could say that's the representation of what happens when your model of the world gets blown apart, right? And you realize that you're inadequate, right? Like you realize that you're not the person that you were. You say, okay, I'm a very good-looking person. And then you go up to 10 girls and all 10 girls reject you. And then you're faced with this realization of, wait a second, maybe I'm not a good-looking person, right? Maybe I'm not as attractive as I thought I was, or whatever, and this is the part of dismembering, right? You dismember yourself completely. You lose the part of yourself that was holding you up. And that's Two-Face losing his face, and that's Batman losing his confidence, essentially. And Batman's a more literal representation, like he literally just loses his confidence. And the question is, what do most people do in this case? And given the fact that 92% of people give up on their goals, the thing that I've noticed in my life is that most people run away, right? Most people are willing to let go, and most people are willing to just lose themselves, right? They realize that they can't face the dragon. They realize now that they're inadequate, and that's quite a depressing thought. And well, I've gone through this, something resembling this, in the fact that you realize that you're inadequate, and once you realize that you're inadequate, you say, wait a second, why does this thought keep coming, right? And that's anxiety. Why does this thought keep coming? Why do I keep feeling inadequate, and why can't I run away from? Why does it keep pinging me? Why do I keep feeling like I'm not the person that is me, right? Why do I feel like I'm just so dismembered? And this is the point where most people run to alcohol, right? This is the point where people, and I'm not going to say all people, and I'm not going to say most people, but I'm going to say people, say, I'm going to let go. I'm going to let go of this nagging anxiety that is running in my head just for a little bit, because, damn it, it's not easy. It's not easy dealing with this, and I just want to escape for a little bit. And well, I think we could understand how wrong that is, but I think we could also understand how much it makes sense. How much it makes sense. It's like when you're going through this amount of suffering, this amount of pain, it's like maybe you can run away. Maybe it makes sense to run away. And if you've seen my Batman Begin lectures or the Lion King lectures, that is Hakuna Matata, right? That is Hakuna Matata. In Lion King, right? You run away, you face the dragon and you realize that you can't, or in this case it's Scar. You face life and you realize that you can't face it, and then you just run away. And I've been trying to see, the thing is, when most people hear this, you think that it's just like we like to be able to differentiate themselves, like people. We like to differentiate the people who don't drink, the people who drink for fun, and the people who have a drinking problem, But what I've come to realize in my experience being around people who drink is that it's a gray line between the people who drink for fun. It's a blurry line between the people who drink for fun and the people who have a drinking problem, because it's not, here's a good way of looking at it. It's not about how much you drink. It's about why you drink. For the people who drink because all they want to do is run away from their inadequacies, run away from the fact that they're failing. And the problem is, it's really hard to diagnose such things, but for the people who do that, it doesn't matter how much you drink. It's all about, you have a drinking problem. You have a drinking problem. And the reason is because, and this is for essentially all alterations of consciousness. What I've realized is this goes for alcohol, weed, right? And things like distractions, things like social media, things like TV, Netflix shows. The reason why we do such things is partially to distract ourselves from the fact that we have a goal that's sitting there and we really don't want to pursue the goal. That's procrastination in a nutshell, right? You procrastinate. Why do you procrastinate? Because, you really don't want to face the dragon. essentially. You really don't want to face your homework. You really don't want to face your work. And so you're just going to distract yourself from the nagging thought that, oh yeah, maybe you should do your homework for as long as you possibly can until you have to eventually face the dragon in non-voluntarily. But we'll get back to the alcohol idea. And the essential, here's the problem that I've sort of diagnosed with the runner's mentality, with the Hakuna Matata mentality. It's not the fact that you drink. It's the fact that you've chosen an outlet in which you consistently run, right? Because what is a hero, right? What did we define as a hero earlier in this movie? We defined a hero in this slide right here, where Harvey Dent is pointing the gun at the Joker. It's the hero is the person who can slay the dragon, who can kill the Joker consistently, who can kill the Joker day after day, and, well, go into new territories, solve new problems, right? Because if you think about it, that's the idea of give a man a fish or teach a man a fish, right? You give a man a fish, that is somebody who solves one problem. But we don't really care about somebody who could solve one problem, because the question is, are they going to be able to do that consistently? For a man who knows how to fish, that is a man who can consistently solve problems. That's the man that we want as our leader. That's the man that we want to handle the problems of life, to handle the jokers of life, because, well, they're not only going to be able to solve this one problem, but they're going to be prepared for the next problems that come along. So that's sort of the idea of the hero. The idea of the hero is someone who can consistently slay the dragon. And the problem with someone who drinks alcohol to escape, or someone who goes on social media to escape, someone who procrastinates to escape, is because you are consistently, in this case, not slaying the dragon, but consistently running away from the dragon. Right? That's exactly what you're doing. There's a dragon that's sitting there in front of you, whether it be an anxiety thought, whether it be homework, work, whether it be an actual goal that you must pursue, a career that you must pursue, a barrier that you must pass. There is something that is in your way, and when you decide to run, it doesn't matter that you're choosing alcohol to do it. It just matters that you are consistently running away, and that's the representation of, like, the entrepreneur, right? That's the representation of somebody who starts something only to tear it down and start it up again, right? That's the representation of someone who drinks, who only wants to run away from their problems. And just in conclusion, maybe that's what happens to most people. Maybe that's what happens to the 92% of people who fail on a goal. Because the unfortunate reality is, when you fail on a goal, you're gonna need to have another goal, right? We humans are designed as goal-structured creatures, And you could test this, right? Because right now I'm assuming that, well, first of all, you're listening to this lecture and there's a goal established with that. But you could make the case, and it's an interesting case, that people who are living Hakuna Matata, people who are just drinking for fun, and are living meaningless lives, the typical meaningless lives that typical archetype of the college kid who really doesn't care about school and doesn't do anything. We could say that they're goalless creatures, right? We could say that they don't have any goals, but really, we already established this, right? We already established, that's really good tying these ideas together, that someone who has the goal of getting drunk has a goal. The goal is to get drunk. The goal is to go through essentially the hero's journey of overcoming this awful taste of alcohol to achieve some end goal. So, no matter what, you're always going to be, well, which is funny. It's funny because that goal, right? It's a goal. It's a hero's journey. Like, you're literally going through the hero's journey. You're in the ordinary world, and then you, which is consciousness, right? Like, being awake and not being drunk. And then you say, okay, I'm going to there's something that ticks me off that says, okay, maybe we're gonna drink, which is Friday night, right? And then that's sort of the call to adventure. And then you're going through the trials and tribulations of going through the drink, and then you have the transformation process in which you transform of being drunk, and then you eventually go back to the ordinary world. It's like, that is a hero's journey. The only problem with that is you have a goal. No matter what you do, you have a goal, but it's the wrong goal. It's the wrong principle. It's the wrong structure. And that's an interesting idea. So now let's relate that back and we say, okay, no matter what, you're going to have some sort of goal structure. You fail, 92% of people fail. You lose your goal structure, or you fail on this goal. You fail on this, we'll say, good goal. So now you've established yourself, therefore, as somebody who fails at good goals, somebody who fails at achieving their potential, roughly speaking. Well, then what are you left with? You're left with a goal structure that you need to do to fulfill some underlying goal, right? Some underlying need for a goal. And all you're left with is, if you can't succeed on the good goals, you're going to find a bad goal to find. You're going to find some sort of, well, anything that's going to give you this goal structure. And I think, I firmly believe that's why people turn to alcohol, drugs, social media, food. I think food's a really big one. Weed, all of these things. And it's because you can't just sit there and do nothing, right? You can't just sit there and, well, you can test this on yourself. Right now, this is the problem that most people have, well, like meditating. You sit there, try to sit here for 5 minutes and just think about nothing. What you're going to end up doing is establishing some sort of goal. And, well, what ends up happening is if you can't succeed on the good goals, then you're going to start trying bad goals. And this is what Joseph Campbell wrote about this in his Hero with 1,000 Faces. He talked about this. He said, for the people who don't go on hero's journeys, it's not that you're never going to go. It's not that you're just going to live your life in bliss. It's not that you're going to live your life in happiness. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up finding some way to tear down your structures. You're going to find some way to, well, that's funny because he said, essentially what happens is you're going to find a way to tear down your structures, which is the representation of the Joker, your old rules, and then what you're going to do is you're going to start establishing bad rules because you decay. And then you need some sort of goal structure, and then you start establishing the wrong goal structure. So, man, that's scary. But that's the idea of everything burns, right? And, all right, so we're going to move on. And, man. Okay, so we're going to move on. And so what is Batman's solution to this, right? Batman's solution to this is he becomes a god, right? He becomes omnipresent, and he takes control over all of his personalities. So essentially what he does is he doubles down, right? He doubles down. He says, okay, we'll go with this example. So 5% of my motivations are telling me to follow my principle. 95% of motivations are telling me not to follow my principle. So what am I going to do? I'm going to grab those 95% and I'm going to tell them what to do. And the thing is, we don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It's ambiguous whether or not it's a good or a bad thing. And this is exactly why, right? I just explained to you exactly why. So this actually connects it very well. It's a good idea to double down if you have a good principle. It's a bad idea to double down if you have a bad principle. And that's why this is the problem, because when we do something like this, right, when you establish the goal of let's get as drunk as possible, you don't know that you're establishing a bad goal. Or when you say, I want to follow X career, you don't know if you're going down the wrong path, because the unfortunate reality is we have limited information. We don't know what's going to make us happy, and we don't know what what is good for us. We have limited information. That's the unfortunate reality. We go into a world and we say we're going to do something, right? I say I'm going to, for example, I say I'm going to quit smoking, but I don't know the top 10 techniques in which I'm going to quit smoking. I just kind of go off the knowledge structure that I have. And so the unfortunate reality is we don't know what's a good goal and we don't know what's a bad goal. You establish society, right? Like we'll go back to the Hitler example. A lot of people in Nazi Germany probably thought that it was a good idea. A lot of people in, I don't know. Well, okay, we'll go with Russia and Cuba because I think these are really good examples. A lot of people in Russia and Cuba thought they were establishing the perfect Marxist socialist society, right? The dream, the utopia. That's what they were sold on, and that's the idea in which they gathered themselves around, and they said, okay, this is going to be amazing. The Soviet Union, the perfect union. This is going to be incredible. And they didn't know that they had the wrong goal. They didn't know that they had the wrong principle, but they damn near died for it. No. They actually died for it. And 30 million people roughly. And, the unfortunate reality is they were given limited information. They thought they had the right principle, and they were wrong. And here's the morally ambiguous question here. So the thing is, Batman decides to double down. He decides, okay, every single ounce of me is telling me not to go to the gym right now. Every single ounce of me is telling me to get back on the wagon or get back to smoking, right? Are you sure of your principles? If you're sure on your principles, stick to the principles. Double down, get every single thing on you, and stick to the principles. And that's exactly what they mean when these quotes, they say it's not about how hard you push along the way. It's having something in you to finish. Nobody's going to hit as hard as life, but it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. It's about how hard you could stick to your damn principles. And that's the thing, you just got to have the right principles. You got to have the right principles, and that's exactly what Batman Begins was all about. You got to establish the right principles. He established the perfect principles for him. So now Batman doubles down, and he says, okay, I got everything on my side, and you got everything on your side, aka the Joker, and we're going to go to war. We're going to do it. So what does the Joker do? He does exactly what the Joker's supposed to do. He sends the dogs after him, right? He sends the animalistic impulses at him. Right here, you got 3 dogs, right? And he sends... Batman knows he's going to have to fight the dogs. He knows he's going to have to fight the unconscious impulses within himself. The part of him, let's say, that wants to... Well, I think Garfield and a dog are very similar characters. Like, of course, he's going to want to follow his impulses no matter what, right? In this case, it's maybe laziness, maybe whatever, right? Maybe the impulse to run away. All of these impulses, he's going to have to fight them, and he knows he's going to fight them. And what is Batman's response, right? How does he sort of handle it? He actually, obviously he uses the sonar, right? That Lucius is giving him, right? And he's sort of feeding off that. He's using his omnipresence, right? He's using his all-knowingness and all-power, right? Omniscience? I'm not sure, but he uses all of the tools that he's been given, and then what happens is he experiences this little conscious lapse right here. He experiences this one moment where what he's doing right now is he's facing the unknown. He's facing the thing that he's never been able to face before, something that's stronger than he's ever faced before. And what happens is he has this little conscious lapse of, okay, maybe you thought you were going to be a god. Maybe you thought you were all-knowing. But when you face someone like the Joker, you are not all-knowing. You think you know everything. But the thing about consciousness is, like, there's always something deeper to look into. There's always some part of you that you don't understand. Actually, I have right on the wall over there, I have it's like a sort of like a list, And it's a list that's divided down the middle. And on the left, it says conquered territory, right? The things that I've figured out, the things that I've been able to institute structure on. So I said reading, being able to go to sleep at the right time, getting good routines, weekly podcast, eating discipline, academic virtue, and daily journaling, right? Like those are some things that I've been really on top of. And then on the other side, I said the dragon unconquered. And these are the hero's journeys that I need to go on in the future. So right there it says, let's say meditation. One of my big problems is I have an ADHD tendency that's really like killing me right now. So that's, we'll say, one thing that I really need to work on. What is this? Retention of information. My memory is pretty terrible. Fixing my posture. I have some pretty bad posture. So then I have all these things. And then on the bottom there, on the bottom of the Dragon Unconquered list, what it says is that which I am ignorant. So it's an unchecked box, something that I haven't figured out yet, and it says that of which I am ignorant. And it's a valuable principle. It's a strong idea. What it says is, here are the things, right, in the Dragon Unconquered, right, the thing of like, figuring out how to meditate and figure out how to figure out my ADHD tendencies and all these things. All of those things are the things that I know I am weak at. All of the things I know I am bad at. But then, what about the things that I'm bad at, that I don't know which I am bad at? Right? It's an interesting philosophy, and the idea is you could be completely aware of your flaws, but, there's always going to be something that you don't know. You're always going to be ignorant of some of the things in which you are bad at. And that's partially why we have people, right? That's partially why we interact with other people, because I'm bad at many things, you're bad at many things. But if you tell me what I'm bad at and I tell you what you're bad at, then both of us can improve. And we have this little, you do that in a society and then you have a good society. So this is what the Batman's struggling with here. When he's facing the ultimate unknown, he's facing the, quote, that of which he is ignorant, that of which he doesn't understand. And he has a conscious lapse because, of course, he's ignorant of the thing that is the ultimate unknown, the ultimate symbol of chaos, which they do so well in this. And this is what the Joker does. Like, look at this. So obviously it's in this blue tinted shade because his eyes are in this blue tinted shade. And the Joker, I think, like clubs him on the top of the head and pins him down under some foundational bar on some metal bar, and the Joker wins for a little bit, right? And that's sort of how it is, because what happens is you say, and here's what happens when we go on these, our hero's journeys, whatever we want to call them, our goals, right? You say you're gonna go to the gym, right? And you say you're gonna, we'll say, figure out that part of it. But the unfortunate reality is, when you actually go and face it, it's going to be harder than you actually expected it to be. And that's something that's universally true, right? It's something that's universally true. You have no idea what you're getting into when you actually get into a goal. It's like, there's a reason why people don't achieve goals. There's a quote by Tom Hanks where he said something like, there's a reason why, I like my goals to be hard. It's the hard that makes them great. And that's the point. It's like, if it were easy, then everyone would. That was a quote. If it were easy, then everyone would do it. It makes, if you're going to go for a goal and it's a worthwhile goal, you're going to face something that you're not ready to face. And unfortunately, the only thing you could do is face it voluntarily. And just face it. Just go for it. Just give your all to it. Go for it. And in this case, face the Joker, which is a little bit crazy. So, then you have this little interplay. The Joker kind of wins, and then Batman obviously pulls some little technique or whatever, and then Batman wins. And then he's got him tied up, he's got him upside down, and Batman wins, right? So he faces the ultimate unknown. He faces the thing that he literally, even in his attempt to understand everything, was not prepared for. But he still finds a way to overcome it. And that's sort of the idea of the hero right there. The idea of the hero there is, it's the person who solves problems even though they weren't ready for the problems. No matter what the problem is, right? No matter... See if I could relate it to the fish example. Yes, yes. No matter what the waters are like that day, you aren't given a fish. Okay? You know how to fish, and therefore you know how to control the waters, and you know how to, well, fish, right? You know how to solve these problems. And that's exactly what Batman does. He faces the ultimate unknown, and he's competent enough to win. And and then the best thing about the Joker is the Joker reaches the end, right? The Joker realizes that he's lost and almost lost, right? He's lost this battle. And what he says is, this is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. I'm going to say that again because I really love that quote. This is what happens when an unstoppable force, which is the Joker, meets an immovable object, which is Batman, right? And obviously the immovable object is a representation of principles. And what the Joker is doing here, when he says an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, I'm glad something like, we're going to do this forever. And what he's really telling him here, what he's telling Batman here, is that it is a constant battle. You must fight the dragon every single day. You must do it until your very death. And since the Joker is not a person, he's a spirit of the ultimate unknown. Since he is that, well, the unfortunate reality is there will always be things in which we are unsure. There are always things that we don't know. And that's why the Joker never dies. That's why you can't kill the Joker. You can't kill the Joker because he is the representation of everything that we don't know. And the unfortunate reality is we will never know everything. And that's what I meant when I put that little box in the bottom of says, that of which I am ignorant, that of which I don't know, because I will never check that box. I will never say I have figured out the box of that of which I am ignorant, because I will always be ignorant of things. And that's just something that we have to deal with. But the question is, how do you deal with someone like the Joker? So what is the perfect resolution? Where does the Joker go? And what do you do with the Joker character, right? Like, okay, so now Batman is won. What do you do? And Batman says, you put him in a padded cell. You put him in a padded cell, and you essentially, because you can't kill him, you essentially, well, don't give him as much power. That's a good way of looking at it. So this is something that I think is the best overall lesson to take from this movie, right? And you ask the question, you have this instinct, whatever the instinct is. I'm going to go with the Garfield instinct because we've been going with that. This instinct to laziness, instinct to lay on the couch. And the question is, what do you do about it, right? One answer would say, you kill it. Right? This is the traditional hero view. You slay the dragon and you kill him, right? The thing is, the Joker's a representation of the dragon, but you can't kill the dragon. So, one of the things is, you overcome Garfield and you just tell yourself, I'm never going to be lazy again. That's essentially what killing the dragon is. But, that's somewhat flawed, right? It's flawed because that Garfield instinct, that Garfield spirit, is always going to be within you. There's nothing that you can do to get rid of it. It's always going to be within you. So the question is, if it's something that you can't kill, if laziness is an obstacle that even the greatest of us struggle with, what do you do with it? And the answer is, you give it its place in your kingdom. You give it its place in yourself, in your psyche. So for example, and you don't let it have as much power. So let's say, for example, that for about 40 hours a week, your Garfield instinct was taking over. Actually, we'll go 60 hours a week because, trust me, you're awake for around 114 hours a week. For many of the people I know, it's probably more than 60. But you have, let's say your Garfield instinct is alive for 60 hours a week, and that would be the representation of Joker having as much power as possible. The answer is, what do you do about it? You don't just give it zero. You don't just say, I'm never going to be lazy anymore, ever. You say, no, I'm going to be lazy. And lazy is the wrong word because I'm going to rest, right? In this case, it transforms into something that is better, which is rest. I'm going to rest for 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, whatever. Depends how much you want to work. So the answer, right, in this case is, Don't kill off. This is the fundamental lesson to take from it. Don't kill off this instinct within you. Just give it less power. Just give it less influence over you. Remember when I said a while ago that when you are on the wagon and you fall off the wagon, right? This metaphorical phrase that we use, you're not actually the one that fell off the wagon. It's really this Joker figure that pushed you off the wagon, because the Joker had all the power and he was the one who wanted to push you and therefore took control. Essentially, you could say you were possessed by the devil, something like that. The answer is not to kill the devil, because the devil will always exist. The answer is to control the devil. The answer is to that's a good way of looking at it. To control the devil, to let him have his little, he can have his little fun for a little bit, but you have complete control over it, and you have completely conquered that part of yourself. And that's a strong Christian idea, but somewhat lacking, but it's a strong Christian idea. I mean, first of all, in the idea of rest, right? God rested on Sundays, right? God tells you cannot work on Sundays for that exact idea. And also, the name Israel, right? Israel is it means he who fights with God, right? So he who wrestles with God. And that's the idea. You're always fighting. You're always working, and it's not just something that you just kind of get over with and just say, I'm not going to deal with it anymore. So, and now we get the point where all of it comes together, where everything comes together, and I finally get the satisfactory answer to whether or not happily ever after exists. I think this is a good way of looking at it. So, what happens, and this is something that I detailed a little bit, but I'm gonna give you the full picture now. So Harvey Dent comes around and he says, he captures the child, goes to kill the child, all that good stuff, and the child hero within himself. And he says, one of the things he says is, there's no escape from this. You think I want to escape? There is no escape from the suffering in which I am experiencing. And he is exactly right. There's nothing wrong in that statement. The tragedies and the sufferings of the world will never leave. The Joker will never leave. And that's exactly what it means when you say, when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. No matter what you do, you're never going to fight suffering. And well, that's why you consider suicide, right? You think of someone who considers suicide, it's because they just can't handle the suffering of the world. They can't handle this figure of the Joker who is just completely tormenting them. And I hope that this movie actually helps you understand a little bit, in a productive way, why people commit suicide. Obviously it's the idea of understand but don't embrace. But I hope it helps you understand. It's like the world is a lot. It's good to have a non-naive view of the world. If you look at the world as something that is brutal and chaotic, then you could look at it as something to be conquered. But if you look at the world as something that is fun and not harmful, then you're gonna get rocked. You're gonna get crushed. You're gonna get absolutely crushed, and that's exactly what happens to people with PTSD. You get PTSD because, well, you think that the world, your view of the world is that life is great and there's really no problems, and then something comes along and just knocks you off your feet, completely crushes you, and that's Harvey Dent's character, right? Harvey Dent's character is someone who wasn't prepared to handle the suffering of the world, and then couldn't handle it, when he faced it. It's the unfortunate reality, and this is, and then it tormented him, and that's why people commit suicide. But so that's essentially what happens, right? Suicide is not exactly what happens, but we've already established that the ego died, right? Harvey Dent died, and along with him went the child, right? Along with him went the passion within him, the passion, the individuality within him was dead, and here we get to the ending, right? The ending, the unfortunate ending here is the conclusion that Batman and Police Commissioner Gordon come to. They realize the Joker won. They come to this realization that the Joker won. Right here. We bet it all on him. We bet it all on the ego. We bet it all on the motivational systems. And they failed us. They failed us. The child within us has, well, been rescued, right? Like, the child within us has not died. And, that's a good way of looking at it. Batman saved the child, and he's preserved optimism. He's preserved something resembling hope. But at the moment, the ego, the motivational systems are completely dead. They are dead. So we've reached this point, and this is the point where, well, think about it, right? You think about it this way. Actually, no, so you think about it this way. You have Batman, who is completely, we'll say, devastated by his own self. He's completely devastated by his own emotional impulses, his own desires. And things are at a low point. And that's the equivalent of January 12th. That's the equivalent of getting to the point where you have literally no motivation to get up off the couch, no motivation to keep going. All you want to do is just not go to the gym. You want to do anything but go to the gym. And that's a representation of Harvey Dent's death. But what does Batman do? Batman says, but the Joker cannot win. The Joker cannot win. I don't care. I don't care what is happening right now. I don't care what any of my emotional systems are telling me right now. The principal needs to win. The Joker cannot win. The principal needs to win. And then we get to the conclusion. The conclusion is really simple. Batman says, I'm going to be hated. The people of the city are going to chase me. Which is, as we've established, the representations of his own personality are going to chase me. The people inside of my life are, every single motivational system inside of me is going to turn against me, which is the 95% against the 5%. And the question is whether or not I could take it. And that's the resolution that we've come to. We've come to the resolution, and it says right here, Batman can take it. It doesn't matter how much struggling he's going to go through. It doesn't matter how much his own system, his own people, his own motivational desires, personalities go against him. He's going to take it. His ego, his willpower is going to push through, and he is going to win. And now here's where I say the happily ever after conclusion is not satisfied. You think about almost any movie ever, and it always ends with some sort of good feeling. It always ends with some sort of happily ever after. The Disney scenario. I actually have Moana right here. And, this is how it ends, right? It ends with, this beautiful understanding between all the family members. Everybody's happy, things are going really well. Here's Batman Begins. Batman Begins. He gets the girl. Commissioner Gordon says, I never said thank you. He reunites with his conscience. Lucius Fox, things are going well. He rebuilds the house. Everything goes well. It's always the perfect ending. But in The Dark Knight, we don't have that. And the question is, first of all, I'll tell you exactly what it means when I say we don't have that. There's this idea that plays out throughout the entire movie, and it's the idea of secrecy, right? How long can you keep this quiet is something that the mayor asks. Even Batman says, Lucius, I'm playing this one pretty close to the chest, and that was the sonar concept. There's the lie at the end that Harvey Dent was a good person and that Harvey Dent never turned to evil. That's something that Commissioner Gordon does. There's the lie that Alfred gives to Batman, saying that she was going to wait for me. Rachel was going to wait for me, when in reality, she was actually not going to wait for him, right? She was actually going to marry Harvey Dent, and she tells him this in a letter, and Alfred says, I'm not going to show this to Bruce Wayne. So what we have here is unfortunately, I told you in the Batman Begins lecture, and I just said this, right, that there's this beautiful unity that exists between all of these characters. We have Lucius Fox, who's the CEO of Wayne Enterprises. You have Alfred, who's with him, right? We have all these beautiful things. But at the end of this movie, all we have here is disunity. Disunity between all of the personalities that exist within Batman's psyche. Because what happened was Batman doubled down, right? This is exactly what happened. Batman said, I'm going to go ego over everything. My principles are going to go over every single motivational desire that I have. And what does it result in? Lucius Fox says he's going to quit, and it's a little ambiguous as to whether or not he's going to leave. I'm pretty sure he leaves because he wasn't in the next movie, to my knowledge. And then you have the disunion with Alfred, right? He is essentially separated from his own conscience because, well, he couldn't take it. He couldn't take the idea that Rachel wasn't going to be with him. And that's tough, man. Now we have the disunion between him and Harvey Dent. Of course, Harvey Dent has died. We have the disunion between him and Police Commissioner Gordon because Police Commissioner Gordon now is going to lie. So what we have here is every single person that Batman united with at the end of Batman Begins. All of these personalities within himself. The idealist, which is Police Commissioner Gordon, the person who knows how to get things, the conscience, all of these figures he is completely distant from. And what he has said is, I am going to go ego over everything. I don't care. I am going to go with my principles. And that's why it's a bittersweet ending. That's why this movie ends with a tough reality, is that if you want to face the ultimate evil, here's one solution. Here's one solution. And first of all, it's not going to be easy. Second of all, you're gonna have to ditch some of your motivational systems because those motivational systems are deeply rooted animalistic motivational systems. We'll say most of them, and a lot of them are gonna go against your path. A lot of them are gonna say, we don't want you to have this principle. We don't want you to do it. And well, the fundamental conclusion here is, if you have a good principle, and first of all, make sure that your principle is good. If you have a good principle, stick to it. And that is the end. That is the end. I just wanted to take the time to tell everybody and just advertise my book. This is Break Your Bad Habits in 150 Pages, A Hero's Journey. This is my book that I wrote that is literally based off all these ideas, The idea here is very simple. If you want to be a hero in your own life, if you want to follow these principles, every single principle over here is established in this book. And if you're trying to break a bad habit, the bad habits that we all struggle with, I've been talking about them throughout this entire book. The, overeating, smoking, procrastination, you name it. Just name your bad habit, and this book is a step-by-step guide. It takes you through the hero's journey step by step, and shows you how to break your bad habit as a hero. It shows you how to be a hero. I think one of the things is we watch these heroes, we look at someone like Batman, and we say, okay, Batman can be a hero. But what about the question of, can you be a hero, right? Can you actualize these principles? Can you take the principles that I just explained to you in this movie and actualize it in your real life and be a hero? Can you do it? So the link for my book will be on Amazon. It will be here below, and I hope you enjoyed the Dark Knight lectures. Take care.